Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of Joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Good morning.
Hello.
It's a beautiful Friday. We for those of you in Facebook land and LinkedIn land, we put together the announcement for this, and it was like, no, you can't do it less than 5 minutes in advance. So it might show that we're not going live until 5 after, but we're here.
We're here.
We're here.
And I need more coffee.
So welcome. If you want to, go ahead and throw in the comments who you are, where you're saying hello from. Don't forget too that in part of the post, you can add your name by just clicking that. It's okay for StreamYard to show your name if you want to,
Right.
Or you can just type it into the comments. We really really appreciate that too. So yeah. Lots of stuff. We've just been 2 days, and it's just lots and lots of stuff, good stuff that has been happening in the Jim and Michelle world.
Yeah.
And so it was this morning. Our head was still kind of going. Woo! This is
Yeah.
there's a lot of good stuff out there,
and then on top of it, all the topics. We jokingly have said a couple of times we're not going to run out of stuff to talk about on the morning show. Like early on we said three episodes a week. That seems like a lot, but now you realize there's just so much. Like every time we talk about writing down a topic for a future episode, we end up writing down about 4 or 5. So we just there's just so much.
It really really is. And we've actually had a few of our colleagues say, how are you going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, I think that it's going to be not too hard, because there's like so much goodness that's coming from social media, from the news, from goodness, like good topics to unpack.
Yeah.
And so just real quick before we go into the topic that we'd like to unpack today, just an announcement. I know you guys are probably sick and tired of hearing. Well, no, you shouldn't be.
No.
TIADA is coming up. It's soon. And so if you have been on the fence about whether or not you're going to attend, if we can be that gentle nudge to knock you over into the camp of, yes, I will be there, then nudge, nudge, nudge. It's really going to be an amazing conference. Wednesday, we had the folks from TIADA join us, and just some really great conversation about who they are and how they're trying to help dealers succeed, and also about the conference as well. So if you haven't bought your tickets are still available. The expo hall is sold out, and the block of rooms that they have at the Kalahari sold out. I don't know if the hotel itself is sold out or not, but
what Jeff Martin said on our Wednesday broadcast is if you're a dealer and you don't get a room, like if you call and there's no rooms, to call TIADA, call the offices. They may have a solution.
Sometimes people cancel at the last minute, and then they have another room that shows up in the room block or whatever.
So just call TIA directly if you're having trouble getting a room.
Yeah. So I think that's all for the announcements, right?
I think so. We can do some more later.
So we spend this is fun for us. This is kind of, it's not necessarily play, but this is something we really, really enjoy doing. And we were last night kind of going over, we usually will review what we're going to be talking about the night before. And so we were talking about what we wanted to do. And we set in on a topic. And then after we had set in on a topic, ran across a couple of things on Facebook that just spoke to the flavor of the topic that we wanted to talk about today. One of which we'll unpack another day, but it was a really close cousin, like first cousin to what it is that we wanted to talk about. And one of them was just like, it was an announcement about some stuff that's happening in Federal regulation land.
Yeah, so we saw the news came out about the, and we're not attorneys, so we're not trying to speak to this from any kind of legal perspective, but we saw the news come out about the CFPB had a ruling about junk fees.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of started us down this path of, you know,
junk fees. Let's talk about what a junk fee is.
The best example of a junk fee is going to be like a convenience fee where we charge the customer, and most of us as consumers see it out there. We call our local utility company, and they, in their kind of phone tree, it says, we'll take your payment by phone for an additional $3.99 fee or whatever. There are these convenience fees, that people charge here and there. And they kind of came into the buy here, pay here space. I don't know. I seem to remember them, somewhere around 7 or 8 years ago, started to, pop up, and then they became pretty widespread. And so, for me, out here talking a lot, Michelle and I spend a lot of time talking about the White Hat Way. And for those of you who have read it, that's about ethics and ethical treatment of customers. And now some of those things that we talk about are even amplified to the extent that you're talking about heading into an inflationary period with customers already struggling, fuel prices sky high, groceries and all the things in their world are getting more expensive. And it just frustrates me. I mean, this whole thing around our industry, and this is something I can talk about because I'm a non-dealer. Attorneys can talk about it.
You've been a dealer, but so
I've been a dealer. I get it. I live in it. I mean, we're in dealerships all the time. I know, we know what it's like out there. I think the thing that, if I'm an attorney in this space, you see attorneys have to kind of, to get dealers' attention, they kind of use a lot of scare tactics. Like they'll scare dealers into, the CFPB's big bad boogeyman, and they're coming after you, and we better, and I get it. That's how attorneys, kind of have to, unfortunately, to get butts in the seats and get people to show up for their webinars and pay attention to what they need to pay attention to. But I'm not really coming at this topic from a legal perspective. I'm really coming at it more from an ethical perspective. I mean, that's what we talk about in the White Hat Way. It's really just a question of, do we care about the success of this customer or not?
Yeah. So like the topic that we came up with before we got onto social media was, why do we make it difficult for our customers to pay?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a whole big thing there. Like for me, I look at that and I think, so, when we presented in San Antonio last summer at NIEDA, we asked the room, like it's the first time I remember in a group setting like that, asking the room, I said, you don't have to raise your hand and tell me which group you're in, but it's been my experience in my travels in working with buy here, pay here dealers that as a dealer, and I'll just ask you, if you're a listener this morning and you're a dealer, do you care about the success of your customer or not? So again,
that sounds like it's like, of course I do. Yep. I mean, I would hope that every single dealer out there in buy here, pay here morning show land is like, of course I care about the customer.
Well, you would hope, but their actions suggest otherwise.
It's okay. So it's what do I remember as parenting, reading the parenting books, that our children, this is a parenting book, will follow our actions more than they'll follow our words. And it's like what, and that part of that is, are you congruent in what you say and what you do? Sure.
So, there's some ethics involved here. There's the question, and like I say, if you're listening this morning and you're a dealer, do you care about the success of your customer or not? So let's just define success. When I asked this question on Facebook a while back, or similar question, my definition of success is customer makes it all the way to the end, makes the final payment. We hope they trade for another car, but the point is that's the definition of success. And make it all the way to the end, make the final payment.
Or trade in.
Right.
One of the two. Yeah.
So that would mean the customer, and it's hard enough. The customer starts in upside down. We know the nature of pricing in this business. And now you've got a customer who was devoted enough to overcome all that negative equity. They paid off the car. They now have equity. And, that I would hope would be our objective in buy here, pay here. And then I hope we're also treating customers well enough that same customer would probably trade for another car before they reach the end. And that would be the definition of success in my mind. So really, if we think about this customer that we're financing and the struggles that they typically have anyway, our friend Tommy Brandis, the creator of the BHPH Success Group, is a current dealer in Pennsylvania who won't mind me sharing that he talked about in our podcast episode that we recorded some time ago that he views our customers as survivors. And he's the first one I heard use that word about our customers. We heard, and by the way, we recorded one heck of a podcast.
That's right. I
episode
forgot that
yesterday.
announcement.
We'll talk about that.
Okay, yeah.
So we recorded one yesterday that you're going to want to
Tote
find.
the note. Those of you who
be,
know that we have 2 podcasts.
Yeah. So that one will go out this weekend. So you're going to want to find that one because we talked about the resilience of this customer that we finance in Buy Here, Pay Here. And I see it that way. And then Tommy also calls them survivors. So I think if we think about who our customer is, that we finance in this space, it's a customer who is on the lower end of the credit spectrum. We know that part. We know they're on the lower end of the income spectrum. We can deduce from that alone that they've got a pretty stressful existence.
It was interesting with that podcast yesterday and I think it was Brent Carmichael that made the comment along the lines. And when he said this, I was off to the side. When he said this, my ears perked up, like, the dog ears, they go, and he said something along the lines that people in this segment are some of the best money managers ever.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And then he said, they know how to make a buck stretch as far as it possibly can for their survival.
Yeah.
They know how all of the ins and outs, and if I do this and if I do that, I can stretch this buck for our families or whatever survival of being able to make this work. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting way, another way of like, these are survivors. These are.
So I chose as a kind of topic or the title for today's episode, how can we help the customers to succeed? Like often I look at some of these things. And so let's just look at junk fees for a minute. If we talk about convenience fees, let's just pick that. You're going to charge your customer $4, $6, whatever you're going to charge them for a convenience fee. And again, I'm not CFPB. I'm not knocking on your door asking you to change anything. I'm simply saying, if you're trying to be successful as a Buy Here, Pay Here dealer, which means in my mind, it means you want your customers to be successful. That's how you're going to be more successful. Then why do we put roadblocks?
Amen.
Why don't we create more avenues for the customer to pay, make it easier for them to pay, not harder? It makes no sense to me. Like I see this customer struggling. And so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, but convenience fees. So let me just be the voice of a couple of dealers. Somebody's out there saying, but convenience fees are legal. We talked about our 20 group. Everybody said we checked. It says legal.
So,
I'm not talking about what's legal.
Yeah,
I'm talking about what does this help your customer? How does it help your customer? And so it doesn't.
And it's like we can say as people in Buy Here, Pay Here that we're about the success of the customer. And then the CFPB looks at you're charging convenience fees. That's like not walking your talk.
So it begs the question, though.
Harder.
It begs the question. So, so apparently 7 or 8 years ago, or whenever this got started, it was legal. Some attorneys said it was legal to do this, and other people were doing it in other industries, and so we started doing it. But okay, so it's legal. So why the CFPB find it necessary to go after something as, minute as convenience fees? Well, let's just think about what is the job that the CFPB is charged with. What is the name of the CFPB? The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That's their job. That's what that's the duty they're
out
charged
there
with,
to protect the customer.
So why did they have to come into our space and start asking dealers or start, being prepared to penalize dealers who are charging these fees? And so again, legal, I'm not here to argue anything about what's legal. I'm simply saying
what's ethical.
It's a roadblock. Yeah. It's like that convenience fee is currently a gallon of gas. It's like, it's like, why are we making it difficult? So I shared with you, you've heard my frustration over recent months, or really it's been a year now. We have I'll just tell you, it's a storage unit. Like Michelle and I, when we left Utah, we had a bunch of stuff that we, weren't ready to part with and whatever. So we have a storage unit. And so we put our stuff in there and we set up the thing for
And
payments.
it's like a mom and pop kind of storage unit.
Yeah.
It's not like the U-Haul one where that has a national presence.
Mhm.
It's a mom and pop one. It's close to family.
Yeah.
So when we're in town, we have easy access to the stuff we left behind when we left Utah.
But the part of that is frustrating. Like it just wears me out. This situation about trying to pay this little, payment every month.
I want to just add one more thing. It's not huge. It's probably got 100 and 150 units. So
yeah, it's a small,
it's a small one, but it's still, I mean, they're bringing in, when you do the math, we're in buy here, pay here. You do the math. It's a lot of money for low management fees.
So there's actually a separate topic on that same thing we can talk about another day. But I think for me on this one, what I'm really suggesting is this is an example of somebody like Michelle and myself who have an obligation, something that we pay. It's a secondary kind of thing. It's not it's really gets out of sight, out of mind. It's not it's not the forefront of your bill paying things each month. But we set it up on auto pay. We expect to auto pay it. But when like recently I had a card that had to change, had a fraud situation, had to change my business debit card, whatever. So, when you do that, you have to remember, where did I put this debit card? Who's got this debit card? Where do I need to replace it? Whatever. Well, this is one that got missed. And I remember, I think, I need to deal with that. I need to go in and make that payment, give them a new debit card. Well, I find their invoice. There's no way to pay online. Like they don't offer me a way to pay.
They offered him a PDF of the invoice.
Yeah. There's no. So
and we're in Florida.
Yeah.
It's we're just going to run down there and pay the payment.
And of course, when I think about it, it's often, early in the morning or whatever, and it's too early to call them. And that's the only way you can send an email, but they don't respond.
Until days later.
Yeah. Weeks later.
Oh,
So it's like so you're trying to take care of something. So let's bring this back to buy here, pay here. It's like, here's a customer who's struggling. Here's a customer who we know has poor credit. They don't manage money well in the way that they can manage to maintain their credit score. So they have that problem. Now they have all these added pressures on their paycheck, and we're just piling on. We're somehow putting roadblocks and making it more difficult for them to pay. So I can talk about if I'm a buy here, pay here dealer, I want to make it super convenient for a customer to pay. I'm going to find all different kind of ways to pay. I jokingly told you yesterday, I said, if they want to pay me in Mexican pesos, I'm probably going to accept that. Like I'm going to try to make it easy. The customer is trying to get their payment to me and trying to fulfill the obligation. I'm going to make it easy for that to happen. And so this is where it just kind of frustrates me to watch dealers, trying to add on these junk fees. It's like every $7 or $4 or whatever it is, that's money that could go toward the next payment or whatever.
A gallon
else.
of milk for some of these people who are survivors. I mean, it's like that extra little bit. It can be the difference between overdraft fees and no overdraft fees. I mean, it's like the every dollar is they usually run out of money before they run out of month. And so why are we making it harder on them?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing that we're just trying to bring forward is, especially, and there's no end in sight here we could be dealing with inflation for a long stretch. And that just means this customer who's at the lower end of the credit spectrum and income spectrum, they're going to be the ones who struggle the most.
Yeah.
And so this kind of falls into the thing about, and I've written articles on this. It's really more on the collection side, but when you look at the success of the customer, there are things that we certainly want to keep squarely on the responsibility of the customer, no doubt. But then there's also this category that kind of becomes a shame on us thing where we're making it hard for the customer to pay. And it's like, doesn't that kind of fall in the shame on us category? What are we doing? Why are we putting roadblocks in the way of a customer who's trying to get their money to us?
Yeah. And I was just kind of thinking, you touched on it just briefly about, why, let's put ourselves into the shoes of the dealer. Why would you have a convenience fee?
I'm sorry, I can't help you on that one.
Neither can I. I mean, I'm like, why? I mean, because
it's to offset administrative cost. I mean, it's the rationale.
You deal with the customer every day. We deal with a customer that we have to reach out to. We deal with this customer all the time. all the time, and we know that that's just part of the description of our what we saw someone call it something other than collectors the other day, and I loved it.
Accounts receivable
specialist or something. That's what they do every day. And if you're using convenience fees to help pay their salaries, then really,
yeah. Well, like I say, it's just to offset costs, but it's like, we, at the end of the day, it's like every dollar because that customer could pay that $5 convenience fee and put it toward their note and have a chance to be paid off, more quickly. So you begin to see why it really does boil down to me. Like, do we want to help the customer get to the end or not? Do we want to make it convenient for them to pay?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it just feels like, all the dialogue that we see out there on social media and dealers asking questions about, and that's why I say we're not going to run out of stuff to talk about. There's just so many kind of topics and tangents off the topics that are kind of still in this track of, do we want the customer to be successful or not? And, one of the things that we're out there trying to do is spotlight dealers who treat customers well, this kind of the white hat way thing. And so we're always talking about that part. And really just think about, even if you don't subscribe to everything we're asking you or teaching in the white hat way track, is like, still you have to ask yourself, can you make the connection, like from a pure business connection? Forget the ethics for a minute. Can you make the business connection that when I can help my customer be successful, is going to translate into my success? The goal here is never repossession. It shouldn't be.
No.
So we can do some math, and there are dealers, we've heard stories about dealers who, they look forward to a repossession because they can sell it and turn it around and make more money and pocket the customer's down payment. I haven't heard those stories much lately, but it's like, it really comes into this thing about, do we really expect the customer to make it to the end? And can we make the connection business-wise that helping that customer to be successful, make it to the end, have a good feeling about us, refer friends and family, buy another car from us? Can we not see the business connection in that? And so these are intangibles, like, it's a harder thing to really, you don't see a line item on your balance sheet or your P&L about customer satisfaction.
Absolutely. One of the things that we take a lot of our clients through, and it's part of this whole ethics thing that we're really stepping forward into, is there's the first question is, do you want your customer to be successful or not?
Right.
If the answer is yes, then every business decision that you make should go through the filter of, is this going to help them be successful, or is this going to create a roadblock?
Yeah.
Is this going to create friction for them to be successful? So do you want your customer to be successful or not?
Yeah. And we had Jeff Martin from TIADA, the executive director from Texas, was on the broadcast on Wednesday morning. And I talked about, that I wrote an article for the Texas publication in May. And the article was kind of just it was a fun way. I was kind of, feeling a little more creative when I wrote the article. And I wrote kind of what I called an imaginary tale, where I imagined that I was, somehow able to get a few minutes with the CFPB. Like I bumped into their top brass and just shared a lunch with them and had a chance to talk to them. And so if I had that moment and I had that opportunity to be the voice of dealers, I would be trying to say, look, there are a lot of dealers out there trying to provide a solution for this customer where there is no good solution. Yes, they have to charge a higher interest rate, the nature of the risk, for the solution that they're providing. And then, more recently, I would like to share the photos that we've seen out there on social media that shows the price that dealers sometimes pay for providing the solution, whether it's wrecked cars or,
destroyed
collateral or whatever. So there's a price that they pay. And so what I would basically be saying, if I'm having that lunch, I'm prepared to be the voice of a dealer who they're trying to help this customer. They're trying to be, and I can even say they're maybe bringing their heart into their business. They're trying to really be a solution. They're trying to be an asset to their community. It's just that if I'm sitting there now I switch into attorney mode. Let me try to be attorney, and I'm going to try to defend certain dealers. Well, I can defend a dealer if I can show, look at all the things this dealer does in their community. Look at all the things that I can demonstrate that
They're trying to help their customer be successful.
They care about the success of the customer. Now I have this other dealer who is real quick on the trigger with repos. They charge one of the most expensive interest rates they can charge. They charge the highest interest or charge the highest convenience fee that they can charge. It's like, it's pretty hard for me to defend now just now I can kick into the legal side. And again, I'm not trying to be an attorney. I'm not an attorney, but I'm saying if I'm expected to defend those practices, then that becomes more challenging. It's like you're not showing me that you genuinely care about the success of this customer. So that's the part that is just
that's the part that's so frustrating for both of us, is to just, it's the reason why these organizations, the CFPB, thank you, are going after things within that fall within the realm of buy here, pay here, is because they're, if the buy here, pay here dealers choose to take advantage of the customer because they can, then they're just trying to protect the customer. And so it's like the only people that really should be worried about this are people that are trying to take advantage of the customer.
Sure.
Because if your end goal is to not take advantage of the customer,
right?
Because the federal regulations, they when you can lay out the map of, we have to charge a higher interest rate, these are the reasons, da 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 da. I mean, how would NIADA be able to go to the CFPB and say, oh, here's why we do convenience fees, because it's good for the customer?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So how prove it?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so, they can present a pretty good case for, we have to charge higher interest rates because that helps protect our money that we're investing in being able to help this customer get into a car that they normally would not be able to get into.
Right.
So
yeah. So, there's separate tangents. Like, one of the things we get into on the collection side is, how do we handle the customer? And this again is, we'll save that for a separate subject, but it's like, how do we then handle the customer on the collection side in terms of enforcement? We see a lot of inconsistency out there when it comes to collections enforcement. Of course, every dealer can adopt their own practices. We think they ought to be consistent in that. But, it's like, it's just sole thread of, and we know, I haven't heard it used as much lately, but, if you're the CFPB, you're probably going after people that are predatory. We've heard that word in, in the finance segment. Not just take it out of the buy here, pay here conversation for a minute and just think, what would the CFPB or any other agency describe as predatory? Well, I think we can all probably write that stuff down. It's like, what are the practices? What are we doing? And does it look like we're interested in the success of the consumer, or are we interested in our own pocketbook and consumer be damned? Like, it's just a simple thing to me. And that's why I was able to ask the question last year in San Antonio. And again, I didn't ask people to show their hands. I just said, you can answer internally. You don't need to show me. I'm just saying, it's been my experience that you either genuinely care about the success of this customer, or you don't. And you need to answer that for yourself, and then ask yourself, what does a convenience fee, go back and look at the convenience fees that you collected in the last 6 months or in 2021 and say, okay, that represented a certain percent of my total payroll, or it represented a certain percent of my total charge-offs. In the end, did what you charge in convenience fees, did it really have a profound impact on the profitability of your business? And had those customers paid that same money on their account instead, what would that look like? And so it just to me is like, is it legal? I suppose. Will it still be legal when the CFPB is done? Not sure. But regardless of the outcome on that, it's like, ethically, it just doesn't fit with having a customer make it to the end of their contract. I feel like we just need to and so the part we haven't talked about, Michelle, is making it convenient, like all the channels that a customer can pay, online portal, you know, the fundamentalist in me really still doesn't like a payment window where people can slide the money in after hours or whatever. Like I still don't love that idea, but a kiosk, you know, people are using kiosk, ACH, debit card, you know,
Bringing
pay
in
by
cash,
phone. Yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah.
Like if I used to jokingly in my own dealership say, you know, we trade for livestock and, you know, whatever. It's like, you know, it's point is we're making it easy for people to use their methods. I mean, I'd be interested to know any dealers out there accepting Bitcoin yet. So, you know, look for,
I just wanted to do a shout out to a couple of people. Tyler Simmons actually listed the link to this.
The article.
To
I
the
see
article.
it there.
Yeah. And Tommy, you know, whenever you see something and he hasn't added his name and it's from Pennsylvania, it's Tommy. Great topic, could go on this for days. And I know that we could with him
for sure.
For a long time. Cause that's this, we're speaking his language. We know that.
Yeah. So that's good. And Tyler Simmons, we appreciate it, and always enjoy the chatting with you inside Facebook. And of course, your name came up. If you weren't listening Wednesday morning, you might want to hear that episode with Jeff Martin. Your name came up on Wednesday as well. So
we already said hi to Sergio Valdez.
Yeah, Sergio, I didn't. So Sergio, we also appreciate all the great questions you bring to Facebook, and we enjoy, you know, participating in those conversations as well. But we appreciate you guys tuning into the broadcast, and we want feedback for those of you that are tuning in. Please, by all means. And here's a question: if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, why not? What? Go do it right now. It doesn't
cost anything.
Go
it
now.
Takes like exactly. Oh, and the other thing about the YouTube channel is that the really meaty stuff that we do for Tote the Note goes in there before it goes into the syndicated channels.
I'm telling you, you do not want to miss the episode we recorded yesterday.
So do you want to tell them who we had on as a guest and what the topic? No, I will.
Oh, so Brent Carmichael, you know, we've been doing this series on.
Brent is so well known and so respected in the industry.
So I did kind of an expanded introduction on Brent Carmichael. So those of you who don't know his name, first of all, where have you been? Brent's been around the industry for 15 years with NCM, and he's certainly one of the most respected folks in the industry. And Brent knows every corner of this industry and knows people all across the spectrum as well. So, you know, he added a lot to the conversation. But we also had Chris Tiller, who's VP of Financial. I forget his actual title, but he's basically the top dog at Car Financial. So I talked about, you know, Car Financial is not somebody you see out there advertising a lot, but
they don't need to.
You know, they've got tons of business and got reps all over the country. And Car Financial is one of those companies that provides a spectrum of, they got several products that they offer, funding solutions for dealers, even early stage dealers. And so there's somebody certainly to know in this space. But
how long have they been around?
Well, he's been in that chair for 15 years. They've probably been there 20. They were originally kind of a subsidiary, or they branched off of Wells Fargo. And they've been very, very successful in deep subprime for a long time. And so we had this really rich conversation yesterday around, you know, how do we do the math on some of this stuff with like, so I want to recap from your perspective, but we basically just kind of covered, you know, this customer that we serve. How do we create success, and what are the metrics of success, right?
As well as, and it was layered or woven in through at this economic time,
right?
How do we do this? Because we've been hearing a lot of, we're not Facebook junkies, but we pay attention to what's going on, and that there's a lot of questions about and comments about in the COVID era, in this economic whatever, in the whatever, you know, all of these things that are playing a factor in, you know, the buy here, pay here businesses out there. And it was, you know, having someone who really understands the financial side of this, and also someone who he just picked up. He's just started his 11th 20 group.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so he works with a lot of very successful dealers that are out there, and being able to bring in the richness of the conversations of some of the most successful dealers into this conversation with us
I'll
yesterday.
tell you,
it was so good.
There was also something really important that happened in that broadcast, is that there was a moment where Brent kind of went through and experienced kind of an exercise they recently did in a 20 group. And those of you that might be on the fence about thinking about whether or not you want to join a 20 group, I think that little, and Brent wasn't selling 20 groups at all. It's just that as he described, kind of this exercise they went through in a 20 group, I stopped and said, you folks who are paying attention just heard some of the real value, of being involved in that kind of peer group and 20 group thing. So that also happened. But I would just say that I brought Chris Tiller to the conversation because I've known Chris for many years, and we had a conversation a week or so ago, 10 days maybe, but about this, what does this economic outlook look like? Like I'm not really a prognosticator. And so what does it look like for you as somebody who's a big lender in this space? What do you feel like is going to happen? And so we talked about how inflation is a factor this time around. And so, but you're talking, and Brent and Chris, you're talking about people who've been in this space for 20 years. They've ridden all the ups and downs, across that span, and including capital market swings and economic swings. So it was really valuable. It was really valuable.
It was kind of fun too, because Chris and Brent have known each other for a very long time. They're working in this space together.
Yeah.
And so with the hard questions, that we have in the series of the podcast, Brent is always, it's kind of like a co-host position. And Brent, it was really fun to listen to Brent. He's like, all right, Chris, I want the real answer. I want you to get down to the nitty gritty kind of thing. And he challenged him to just be like, I don't want the politically correct or the whatever answer. I want the real answer. And so Chris kind of laid out some stuff. It was beautiful. So that will be available on YouTube later today or sometime this weekend. And then it won't be on the syndicated channels until next week. So those of you who are interested, it was probably, from a perspective of sitting and listening, the meatiest one that we've done thus far. And so good. Really, really good. So go to YouTube, like and subscribe. And then the minute we put that up there, you're going to get a ding on your inbox and it'll say, hey, it's there. And then you can go ahead and listen to it. It ran long. It was probably about a 40 minutes. Podcast. And there were so many things within that podcast. It was like, I think that we should do another one that's about this. So
by all means, that's 40 minutes well spent. If you can find the time this weekend, that should be going up, if not tonight, in the morning, and so you'll be able to find that over the weekend. But
so happy Friday, everybody. We're gonna close off, and just hope you have a fantastic weekend. Thanks so much for joining us. And if anything that we've talked about resonates, or it's like, hey, that makes sense to me, and we can help you with being able to improve some of the things that we talk about normally on the Buy Here Pay Here morning show, please don't hesitate to reach out. We do like a free 30-minute discovery call where it's just like, let's just talk. And we can sometimes just quickly point you in the right direction, or, all right, we can help you with that. And here's what we want to be, here's what we can do.
Worst case, we're doing what we always do, which is talk about here, pay here. So,
absolutely. So, hey guys, have a great Friday. And thanks so much for tuning in. And don't forget, TIADA, it's a week away.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel.